Hey folks, first oil change time. See the KLR 650 sitting behind me? I had it out for a few hours today. I'm not quite at the 600 miles they recommend for the oil change. I'm a little over 400, but I had it out. I hosed it off. The motor's still warm. I have everything here for an oil change, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it here in the afternoon. That's the oil I'm going to put in, and it calls for 2.1 quarts with a filter. That's AMSOIL synthetic 10W50. And of course, if you look in your manual, they give you a viscosity chart here. Anybody who has the bike will have the manual, and you can see there's various weights you can use. I'm going to go with 1050 just because I had the oil here at the house. And here is the Kawasaki oil filter. There's the part number. The list on that, you can see it was $8.99. Of course, that's not what I paid with the discount. And this AMSOIL, I don't know if there's any pricing. Yeah, this AMSOIL is pretty expensive. You can see $13.99 a quart full retail. I'm sure your dealer will give you a little bit of a discount on that. But that's what we're going to go ahead and put in. So I'm going to go over here, and I got my 17mm wrench for the drain bolt and 8mm for the filter cover right there. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. I'm going to put my little glovies on because I don't want to get oil. I don't want to get oil on my little hands. Keep them nice and clean. Okay. You shouldn't have any trouble finding your big drain bolt up in here. It's about the only giant bolt on the bottom. 17mm. Now I have the Enduro Engineering skid plate, so it's kind of tucked up inside there a little ways. I'm gonna crack this cap, oil fill cap loose to let some air in the back side. Oil is still warm, and of course make sure you get your washer too. Sometimes your washer sticks and then it sticks to the bottom of the case, or it'll fall off in the oil pan. And I'm not putting a new one on, I'm reusing the original one. Now this would be a good time if you don't have a skid plate like an Enduro Engineering that protects your large drain plug, to put the flush mount drain plug in from Rocky Mountain ATV MC. This is when you want to do it, of course, when you're changing your oil. Now I got to get this filter cover off. These are 8mm bolts. They are both the same size. I'm wiggling it. There's a little tab here, you can kind of wiggle it. Got that off. There's what it looks like. You have this little O-ring right here. They tell you to put a little bit of grease on that when you put it back in. I'm just kind of putting some oil on it from inside here so it slides back in. And you have the tab is down in the bottom, but they have an arrow here that points up so you never put it on wrong. Pull the filter out. And your filter has this little bushing in the center. And of course, this is the factory part number. You can see it is the same. Now I'm going to pop this little sleeve out right there. Keep it oriented the same way as it was. This filter is identical on both sides. I'm going to slide this in, get it lined up, push it through. What you want to do, you have this little piece of your sleeve sticking out. That will go, when you have this off, you'll see there's a hole in the back of the filter housing. That will go directly in there. And you'll feel it slide in. Take your housing and put a little, I think in the owner's manual they tell you to put a little bit of grease on that O-ring. You saw I just smeared some oil around it. You want to pop that back on. And they do have the torque specs in the manual for everything. I don't have them here. I mean, if you have a new bike, you're going to have the manual and you're going to be able to look right in the manual and see what the specs are on it. I'm just going to kind of tighten them and give them a little Start them with your hands so you do not cross thread them, and jack everything up. They should go in very easy. Like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and don't crank one down all at once. Go a little bit back and forth, and these were not very tight. So you want to look your torque specs up and give them a little torque. I got to get my drain bolt back in here. I'm going to try to start it with the socket. Just want to make sure I'm up in here and getting it started correctly. Do not want to cross thread this. Okay, I actually started it with my fingers. Now I will use the socket to get it up in the rest of the way. Get it finger tight. And also, of course, in the manual, there are the torque specs for your bolt. You definitely do not want to over tighten it. Okay, now ready to take this off and get 2.1 quarts of oil with filter change. So this is 1 quart. Get out there. Hit. That's me trying to shoot a dog away. One cord in. One down. Number 2. Number 2. Now you need a 0.1. So I'm just going to look at my little numbers on the side here. Of course, on the liter side here it has 1 to 9, basically 10. So I'm just going to do a 0.1. So I'll do 10 milliliters. Lay it on the level to look, and that's about right. Then of course I'll run it, and I will check that to make sure down here in the bubble that we're good. Okay, cap is on, bolts are tight. You'll want to torque them to the correct specs. Same with the bottom bolt. There's a look at the filter that was in it. Definitely dark and dirty. I don't see too much metal. I mean, there are some chunks. Chunks here and there, and you got pieces of some gasket material and stuff like that, which is expected. Whenever you have a brand new bike, first oil change. Dispose of your oil properly, get it recycled. Gonna go ahead and start it up. Sounds good. Now I'm also going to go over, and if I can get to my doohickey bolt with my skid plate on, I'm going to go ahead and pop the plug off that, break it loose, and do a quick adjustment on that. Okay, well, I can get to it, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to pull this plug off. I think there's an 8mm behind here. I'm going to crack it loose about a half a turn, let that doohickey spring adjust itself, and of course tighten it back up, and we'll be good to go. See if I can position this camera so you can see it. Okay, got a little pick tool here. Just gonna pull that out, get that cover off right there. You have 8mm right here. Snap it loose. I went about a half a turn. You can beat on the case here just if you want to make sure, you know, your spring actually lets go. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it right back where it was. Just like that. This fits over the bolt head, this hole. Just gonna go ahead and put that back on. Push her in there good. The doohickey deal, if you look in your manual, it does recommend that when you take it to your dealer and get the first oil change done at 600 miles, that doohickey adjustment or torsion, timing, torsion chain, whatever they call it, that is recommended to be done at the same time. That's why I went ahead and did it. So that's my first oil change. Bike's running good. Like, subscribe, get on that big fat pig, and ride it hard. See you guys.